Hello, everyone. Just a quick intro, then we'll get right into the meat and potatoes of the presentation. So I'm Bill Pastori, CEO of ZehnTek. We're a technology services firm, mostly focused on the small to medium space, on technology transformations, technology support, and solution procurement for our clients. Today, we wanted to have an educational event or webinar for our client base or potential prospects, because we know there's a lot of FUD out there around the AI space. And we've heard a lot from our customer base. There's some confusion on AI security and governance. And hey, can we use Copilot for everything? Those are some of the questions we're getting, especially from the SMB space. So we figured we'd bring our partner, Crushbank, to help us educate our client base. Their solution's powered by IBM Watson. So we have Matt from IBM Watson here he'll kick off the presentation for about 5-10 minutes, and then Crushbank will take over from there. So that's all I have now. And Matt, you could take it away.
Yep, nice to meet everybody. Matt D'Andrea. I specialize in Watson X. I cover all of our clients in the Americas and really help out the account managers. I'll hop right into it and just give you an idea of what is Watson X. Right, you're going to hear me say client zero a lot in the next 5 or 10 minutes. We consider ourselves client zero because we use our technology all throughout our business today, whether you're in sales, marketing, operations, supply chain. What does it look like? I figured I'd start off with giving you the end result and then, backing into what this is and how we got there and what are our clients doing today. When I open up my screen in the morning as an IBMer, this is what I see. This is our homegrown portal. It's called W3. You can see all the different applications below that we actually use, whether it be Slack, Microsoft Teams that we're on today. I rarely ever log into those applications like SAP SuccessFactors. I've never logged into it, and I'll explain why in a second. It's all because of that Ask IBM chat at the top that you see. And when I want to have a chat with Ask IBM, I click on New Chat. And this is an example of what it can look like, right? So instead of logging into all those applications, we've infused generative AI in Watson X all throughout our business. So if I need to update my address on file, I just click on Ask IBM. I could be a new person at IBM as of today, have no idea what applications I have access to or how to use them. I don't need to know. I'll be guided along that workflow of changing my address, like Watson X is guiding me right now. I can ask questions like, how many days off do I have left? So it understands who I am as an IBMer, my serial code, my serial ID, and so forth. So it'll give me the days off. If I want to request time off for vacation, again, I don't have to log into that specific vacation portal or know how to do that. It will complete all of those workflows through this chat interface right here. Some more real live use cases. We do use Salesforce at IBM today. I rarely ever log into that. I can just ask questions like, what are my accounts? Who are the contacts at company XYZ? Can you enter a new opportunity for me? I don't have to know or learn the skills in Salesforce. It is all done through this portal or this chat interface that you see right here, because we have all the skills for those third-party applications built into the tool. Right now, let's just back up a little bit. That's the end result. Where are clients today? Right, so this is a very confusing screen by design. Right, there's AI being infused or released throughout all different applications today. Right, whether it's something like a Workday or SuccessFactors, they all have their own agents that they're releasing. And clients come to us to, how can we solve this problem of really scaling this across the business? What's happening is all these different agents in these applications are creating silos across the business, right? Finance doesn't talk to IT, sales doesn't talk to marketing, customers might interact with other agents, and it's just causing a lot of confusion. And that's why 54% of AI projects fail to move from pilot to production. That's a stat from Gartner. And we're at this tipping point today, right? So we do see a lot of organizations experimenting with all of these AI agents that are in these siloed applications, but they're struggling to get beyond that tipping point that you see right here to get a truly agentic generative AI solution infused throughout their business. So how did we get to where we are as client zero? How do we get past that tipping point? It's all of these AI building blocks that you see on the screen right here. Right. So we start with your data, right? Your data is your differentiator. We infuse those into small, fit for purpose, large language models, right? And then we provide governance around all these LLMs that you've infused with your data today. Right. Let's make sure that there's no hallucination, there's no drift, all right, so that we can infuse generative AI throughout the business, through all these agents that I showed you, like that Ask IBM agent in the beginning of this presentation. And when we get into some specifics of what makes up Watson X, there are different components, right? And Brian's going to talk a lot about the very bottom part, data, right? It all starts with your data. And Watson X has a portal, or sorry, a solution to it called watsonx.data, which is providing access to all of the data in your organization today, right? That will enrich with generative AI, will infuse into certain LLMs in our prompt lab in watsonx.ai. And once we infuse these models with your data, we provide governance around it. And then the AI agents and assistants will sit on top of these three core building blocks that you see right here. So to sum it up, we eliminate operating complexity. We want to simplify end-to-end workflows. And an example workflow is exactly what I showed you on the very first demo on the very first slide. How do I update my address on file? If I want to find my accounts and enter an opportunity in Salesforce, that is a small end-to-end workflow that is now infused with generative AI and can be completed in a matter of seconds. And we want to automate manual tasks. For client zero, we have 3.5 billion and counting in AI productivity gains since 2023. So it's infused throughout all different areas of our business. That demo I showed you is HR. Ask IT, if I ask a question like, when is my laptop due for a new one? When can I get a new cell phone from IBM? That routes to the Ask IT agent. I gave you some sales examples. We've embedded this in procurement, in our incentives agents as well for sales. Some actual stats on one of these particular use cases, and I know this is an IBM, I know we're a large organization, but this still applies to a lot of mid-sized or small organizations that use Watson X today, right? With Ask HR, we have 11 million yearly interactions. We have 280,000 employees, 40% reduction in operating budget. And then in terms of IBM support, we have 2 bands average increase of HR support level. Just some more details on specific use cases within Ask HR, whether a manager wants to promote an employee, they can do that by just having a chat. Talent acquisition, let's go through resumes, summarize resumes for us, open up job recs, whether that be in Workday or a LinkedIn portal. Again, that's all automated. So to sum it up, and I know Brian will, scale this back to, how can this apply to your organization today in more detail, but why Watson X? Open, right? IBM is a big believer in open source models. We don't believe in locking you into specific applications or one large language model that's going to really lock you out of other components of your data today. Built on trust and transparency. Right? Anytime we provide an answer, we'll always have full explainability in how we got that answer, right? In putting governance around all these LLMs that are infused with your data, and then integrating. We don't care where these assistants live, right? It should be able to live in your existing infrastructures, in your existing systems today. We're not going to lock you into a certain vendor, tying back to that open source model. So I'll pass it to Brian to go into more detail.
The way we do this, and we've done this a couple times, the reason we do it in this direction is everything we've built, and David Tan has sort of been is the chief architect behind this, in addition to the co-founder and CTO, is based upon the IBM technology framework and innovation. So we've been doing it for a while. We sort of launched this conversation with it's kind of like a note around the environment. And this is like in my fairly lengthy career, this is the first technology that has been released consumer grade first, which has been pretty cool in some scenarios, but equally or more so confusing in others. Just uh, a loaded proverbial gun in terms of what can be done without real good understanding as to what the sources are, what the training is, what the inputs are, what the guardrails are. And that's how this started over the last 3 years. Not AI starting per se, but generative AI and conversational AI and the like post ChatGPT. So now businesses are reaching out to businesses like ZehnTek. Small businesses are reaching out to businesses like ZehnTek and sort of broadly speaking, saying, what can I do that is professional grade, um, that protects my data and builds, I'm going to call them custom outputs, but like specific outputs for my business, leaning in on efficiency that is brought to bear through LLMs, through machine learning, through training, and the like. We have from day one been aligned with IBM because, as you're probably familiar, everything they do is enterprise grade or professional grade. There's not a lot of retail solutions for IBM, which at this stage is really valuable because as people start to look at it and say, my data is critical. The learnings, the trainings, the consistency, all of that has to be part of anything that I put in place. But at the same time, I'm getting pressure from maybe users in the organization that say, I can get a lot of this information from ChatGPT, so you're going to stop me from throwing some of this information out into the web, some of my information, and asking it for quick answers. So my sort of antithesis for how quickly Matt went through things is as we get started here, everything that Matt just showed from an IBM perspective is embedded in what we roll out at an SMB level. So it's all that technology, it's all that responsibility, it's all those guardrails and all that consistency and all those open frameworks that instead of driving billions of dollars in savings with significant investment to stand it up, as is the case in a Fortune 500, we're able to scale that down to the SMB where you're paying thousands of dollars to roll some of these things out. Now, obviously, you can extend complexity and spend some money on it, but the ability to roll some of these things out as an entry level phase is really reasonable. So, without further ado, I'll dive into this. David's gonna listen to me for 2 more slides and then take over on a couple important things. You'll have access to all of this, but two quick things that I think are interesting. We're sort of looking for many organizations will come to a partner like ZehnTek and say, "This is what I need to solve." So this slide is obviously not relevant to those. Others are like, I wonder what I can solve. And it's just a couple stats that sort of speak to what the opportunity looks like, even in its simplest form. Matt highlighted one where greater than 50%, and there are some other slides that say higher than that, some other studies that show higher than that from Forbes. Greater than 50% of these fail because the data isn't well founded and there's a whole bunch of things that aren't properly framed out. The opposite of that, of doing nothing, is you're spending 30% of your employee costs just looking for information. So there's some real nuggets that can be scraped up off the floor by putting some simple solutions in place that leverage your data more effectively. The key to that is doing so in a professional grade data lake that leverages things properly and controls and honors the integrity of that data and the security of that data.